Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Welcome. Great to have you with us on the show.
It's been a minute.
No, but I try, you know what? I try to give some perspective based on experience. And you hope somebody says, "Hey, that's the way it's turning out." Okay. And I'll never forget 1982. Penn State, of course, wins the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
And Penn State had Notre Dame, Pitt, and then what turned out to be the Sugar Bowl with Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
On the field, John Grant was the one doing the interview with Joe on the field. And Penn State had just won the game, and Notre Dame was going to be next. And Joe said, quote, "We're in a 3-game playoff to win the national championship." Said that. Never forgot that quote. John did a great job with the interview. So when Penn State lost to Ohio State, in the post-game show, you got all the taillights leaving. People are upset, mad, completely justified because you're passionate about your team, so you're upset and mad they didn't win. Completely understand that. Right? That's how you get 110,000. People are invested in what these young people do. And I said, look, didn't turn out the way you wanted, but Penn State's in a 4-game playoff to make the playoff.
They are. They were.
And they then won all 4 games, and they got into the playoff. Now, when it came to this round, the quarterfinal round, there are too many. Almost every analyst you see is invested in only their sport.
Yeah,
and justifiably so. I mean, Nick Saban loves basketball, but he's not really invested in it. But I mean, he loves basketball. Kirk Herbstreit, I know, loves basketball. I've talked to Kirk about it. He loves the game, right? But he's not invested in it, especially when he's jumping between the NFL and college and all the 5,000 things Kirk has to do. And Desmond Howard, absolutely not. So, what? Right? Reese Davis should know better, though. Okay? And this, because he does both football and basketball. So I tapped on my basketball experience for this round. And it's not the NCAA tournament, because in the NCAA tournament, everybody starts even. All right? There are no buys, except for obviously anybody comes out of Dayton,
But that's at least a little different.
That's a small sample size. I tapped, and I told everybody before this round started that I tapped on my conference tournament basketball experience, because what happens in conference tournaments? Teams have buys. Okay, sometimes it's a double buy.
Yeah.
And I said the upsets in conference tournaments usually happen in the round where the bye team finally gets to play against the team that won the night before and has, voila, momentum and feels good about itself and is in the natural rhythm of the tournament.
Yeah.
Well, what has happened so far to the 3 teams with buys?
They all lost.
Yeah. Now, later today, of course, Notre Dame will take on Georgia. We'll see how that plays out there.
And I want to discuss one of those games more in depth. We'll get to the Arizona State-Texas one at some point. Well, I want to talk about that game because that one was a very fun game to watch as a neutral. But we'll get there in a little bit. The game, of course, you were covering, you got to watch. Very nice warm environment. I got to say, you're getting back-to-back warm places to travel to, Steve. First Arizona, now Miami. It's not too shabby. It's not bad places to go. You could be in the middle of Wisconsin somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where all these bowl games are.
They're all in warm places.
That's what always made bowl games attractive. Way back when.
Yeah.
They were all in the South. Jack went to 2 Orange Bowls when he was a player. I mentioned the Sugar Bowl. Now, that's indoors now, so it doesn't, And, of course, it's this afternoon because of the unspeakable tragedy that happened on early New Year's morning.
In New Orleans.
On Bourbon Street, and still trying to figure out what happened, how it happened, who was involved, and so forth. But, Dallas was the Cotton Bowl.
Atlanta gets games.
The Peach Bowl, the Gator Bowl finally came up, but that's why everybody sit back on New Year's Day and they watch the Rose Bowl. And here in the northern part of the country, draw whatever line you want. It's cold.
Yeah.
Right? Could be snowing a little bit, but it's cold. Then you look out there and bright sunshine, San Gabriel's, relatively warm, usually in the 60s. Right?
Not bad.
Paul Keels from Ohio State sent me a picture of pregame. He also sent one in the booth.
Of Pasadena.
Yeah, Pasadena from the booth, and of course, I've done games from that booth.
Not bad. Not a bad place to be.
Oh, no. Where is it here? Here we go. All of us are okay. They sent a picture of the guys in the booth, right? And I said it looked like a Cecil B. DeMille film. Here it is.
Boy.
Okay. That's New Year's Day. California.
Horrendous weather. Terrible weather.
Right? I'm saying, but that was always the lure. You sit back and everybody's like, look how beautiful. Oh, God. And the green grass and the sunsets and the San Gabriels. Okay? Right? No offense. You don't get that at the Detroit Bowl.
Can we make a petition, by the way? I know it was talked about yesterday for pretty much the entire day.
Look, the Rose Bowl should be the championship.
It has to be. The weather, the sunshine, everything. And I know...
Okay, just so everybody knows, for some odd reason, this whole thing appears to be about money.
Yeah.
So...
Atlanta.
There's a bidding process. Well, I mean, this thing has been, over the years, Santa Clara. I mean, Atlanta.
Indianapolis has hosted,
Indianapolis has had
New
it.
Orleans.
Arlington has had it. I mean, this game is always bid out. But it should be at the Rose Bowl. It's one of those really easy calls to make.
Yeah.
If you had any semblance of feel for
but that's giving them a little bit too much credit, the NCAA and college football.
Well, it's the college football playoffs, not the NCAA.
So there's a hope there. And there's something else that I thought would be funny that I appreciated, which was Adam Sheets, someone we know very well, said on Twitter, if Ohio State and Penn State make the championship game, you know where it should be hosted?
Youngstown?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
It's the middle ground. Give it some Big Ten weather. We want to see cold, hard-nosed football. And you know what? Each team should be able to draft one player, and I want Penn State to draft Cam Skattebo to make it Skattebo, Allen, and Singleton backfield to just run it down their throats.
Well,
because there's no player who gave himself better showing.
After watching Ashton Genty in person, I have more respect for him now than I had going in. And my respect level for him was up here. He's one of the 10 best running backs I had seen coming into a game in my lifetime. I mean, I'm talking about on the college level. I'm talking about Barry Sanders, Tony Dorsett, Kajana Carter, Adrian Peterson. We sit back and go, ooh, because Rob Smith and I were talking about this before the game. He says, God, Steve, because Rob's gone against a lot of great running backs as a coach. He says, God, this kid, he is good. Now, I watched this game. You're like, oh, he had 30 carries for 100. You know what? They beat the daylights out of him. And that kid kept getting up and kept getting up and kept getting up. And guess what? And he actually broke tackles to get back to the line of scrimmage.
His ability to bounce off 4 defenders, move his legs, and get 6 yards is unbelievable. That is... People talked about and trashed him after the game. I saw some people that were not very bright doing it, and I sat there and said, he There's only so much he can do when he can't get to the line of scrimmage without getting hit by 2 people. Because most of the game, Durant, Vanover, Denayan Sutton, they were there 2 yards into the backfield when he gets the ball. If you're him, you lose 2 yards of space to be able to do stuff.
There was a segment of the fan base, 90% are awesome, incredible. I can't begin to tell you how great they were. In fact, I saw them at the pep rally on, they had 3,000 people at the pep rally on Monday. And they're incredible. Then there's that 10%, which I always refer to as the know-it-all group. You sit there and you're like going, what? They're the ones that always will sit back and go, yeah, we won. They stink. So in other words, your victory really wasn't that great. Genty, he stinks. So in other words, your ability to stop him was not a great performance because he's not very good. It's an incredible performance because he is that good.
Yeah.
You've got to appreciate greatness and appreciate the job your team did to take greatness out of the equation. I mean, he is a great football player, and I walked out of there respecting him more because except for the 26-yard run, look, as I said on the broadcast, I said, Jack, when they ran it was what, 3rd down and 24.
It was 3rd and 24.
Right. I said, we expected the running play. Jack and I talked. I said, Jack, you got a key run here. I said, because he's not, no offense to Madsen, he's not throwing the ball 25, 30 yards, get a first down. I mean, that's not his game. Okay? So I said, you had to expect run here. And Penn State kind of got a little, that's the one time they got a little off kilter with him. That was it. One time. One. Out of 70 plays that they ran, one. They were off kilter on 2 plays the entire night. 2. The touchdown pass and that one Genty run. The other 68, Penn State played unbelievable defense. So you take the 26 out of there. He had 29 carries for
29 for
78 yards.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Held him under 3 yards a carry.
On the other 29 carries.
Yeah.
I mean, he ended up, at 3.3.
With the 104, which is like, and as we said, those were, he was in a boxing match the entire game with the defense.
Right. Now, Katron Allen, Jack and I are watching Monday's practice, and I kind of felt like, watching the other practices leading in. It was only one day, the travel day because of, I did the basketball game. I traveled after the game. So, but the only thing I missed was a walkthrough. So you're not going to see quickness in a walkthrough, okay? We were down at the Tempe Diablo, where the Angels training complex. And we looked at it and says, man, Allen looks fast. Now, you expect Singleton to always look fast. I mean, that's not...
We saw that on full display.
That's a given, all right? I said, the two of us like, geez, Allen looks fast, right? And we also like what they were doing with Amari Evans.
And we'll talk about him in a second, but Katron first.
Katron Allen in the Maryland game was phenomenal. It's interesting. I think Penn State gave everybody an offensive blueprint about how to handle Oregon. I mean, Penn State ran for 292 yards against Oregon, right? And you saw what Ohio State did yesterday. And that's why James has never talked about what Penn State has done, because it's just like, look on the tape yourself and you'll start to see what they did. And I think Penn State has 4 straight games now better than 200 yards rushing. Look, Shelton, Ioane, Dawkins, Wormley, Rucci, then you add in Nelson and Cousins. They have quietly, quote, done the job, along with the tight ends, Dinkins, Reynolds, Warren. But they have quietly done the job.
And even Donko, who's now hurt, he was dominant all season.
Big contributor. Yep.
Like, they are making holes, and it's at the point where Katron would get about 4 yards, and then he would finally get hit by someone.
Well, that's because he sought the person out.
Yeah, because he saw the person out. And
he sought him out. It's like, I can't run free.
And we've talked about Genty's ability to bounce off tackles. I want to bring up, It was called back for a hold.
Oh, that play.
Somebody.
No, and by the way, the call was legit. I got that part. So
like, there was 23 penalties called in this game. I'm pretty much confident all of them were legitimate calls. Like, they were calls you could actually like physically see on the camera. Sure. There were some things not made, some things missed, but for the most part, it wasn't like there was a Bush League call or like that's not a hold type of thing. But the big 40, 50 yard run K-Tron has where he runs through the hole, sees the safety for Boise State and says you, and points at him as he's running at him, and then takes, I think in Madden they call it a hit stick.
That's what I said to Jeff. I said, imagine the safety for Boise State going back to the sideline says, I'm telling you, he sought me out, right? Like most guys are trying to avoid him. Not him. He's like, dude, get out of my way.
And he hit him, bounced off, and went for 15 more yards. He got hit by 13 players.
This is how he's been running. I mean, now both these running backs are over 1,000 yards on the season.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. And you look at Genty, who ended up with, 380 carries on the season, some number like that. When you're splitting time like they are, and again, that was the pitch to both of them when they came here. Like, this is going to work if you guys understand why it's going to work. Ohio State has adopted that with Judkins and Henderson, okay? Hey, you're getting to this time of the year. Who's fresh? Henderson's fresh. Judkins is fresh. Singleton is fresh. Allen is fresh. And I think that is that's important to remember at this time of the year. Who has the legs, the jump? Who's not as beat up? Everybody's beat up at this time of the year. Everybody is. But who's not as beat up? That's why I mentioned how Genty going into the game. I said it's 3 weeks. I said if any running back in the country needed 3 weeks, it was him because he carried the ball so many times. He had 12 runs of 50 yards or better coming in. Unbelievable. Okay, 10 of them were 60 or better. His longest was 26 the other night, that one run. After that, I think the next longest run was 9.
Yeah.
But Allen was phenomenal. Crow did something on his touchdown. On the one actual drive Boise State had in the game, where he mocked K-Tron Allen's touchdown. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? What are you doing? And Allen said, I looked at that and went, what the? And it motivated him even more. You know, it's just after a while, it's like,
why? Just don't do it.
There's no reason to do it. Just do it. Have your own.
Also, he did it while they were down in the game. They were down 14-7, and he did that. And I was like, what? Just don't. Like, there's no need.
I ignored it on the broadcast. I didn't. After a while, it's like, it's my thing of like, I really don't care what you do.
It was ridiculous. But going over.
But K-Tron cared.
K-Tron cared.
Drew got off to a great start. This is a team that you had to play with the lead. So 7-0, 14-0, 14-7, 17-7. Then they finally, that long touchdown pass, that was a breakdown.
Yeah.
It's 17-14. Penn State came right back, responded. Now it's 24-14. They're down 2 scores again. They don't play down 2 scores. They never played down 2 scores the whole season.
The reason Genty hurts so much to everyone is that when they play with the lead or a tie game, he will run it and hit you, and he hits defenders. And as we have said all year about every team and has been said for decades about football, is when you have a good running game, you can control the game, the pace of the game. And when you have someone like Genty who bounces off players and makes a 2-yard run of 12, like, it is demoralizing to teams. And Penn State, as you said, did not let them get to that position.
Right. I mean, it's, and defensively, I mean, when Abdul Carter goes out, Vanover gets more snaps, plays maybe the best game of his career.
Oh my gosh. He was incredible.
And just the long list of how they worked together, the gang tackling, how Singleton and Allen did their deal. Singleton finally busted out the long run. That's the longest run of the season for Nick, the 58-yarder. And on that play, they brought Rucci, pulled him, and Shelton blocked 2 guys.
Yeah, he hit one, hits the second, and it's like, oh, Singleton's got a a path to just go straight.
That's why I said to Jack, and I said this on the broadcast, I said, when Nick went 87 yards against Utah, people forget Shelton took out 2 guys on that play, too. He looked at me and says, well, I haven't seen it. Forget it. I said, it's an illness.
Yeah. And we've mentioned a lot of players. There's one name you brought up who I want to bring up as well, which is you guys talked about it before the game leading up to this. There was one player you wanted to watch for, and he showed out, Amari Evans.
Yeah, Amari Evans we've talked about. You need to have somebody that has the ability to take the top off. Warren had another great game. 2 touchdowns. Both the catches were phenomenal catches, really well thrown by Drew. Wallace is just steady. He wins games for you. But if you can have a guy that take the top off, and Evans, right, perfect throw by Drew, but he got 2 steps on the guy because he's got that speed. And then what I want to see from Amari Evans is it was actually the second catch. It was on the sideline.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay? Well, let me explain why. Okay? One thing Amari has had to make an adjustment to at this level, because his last year in high school he played quarterback, is that you have to be physical at wide receiver at this level. I felt the Ohio State game, Ohio State secondary was physical with him, and he, you know what I mean? Remember that play with Warren where the 2 of them were almost side by side? That was the defender for Ohio State. I can't remember if it was Igbignosin or if it was Burke. I can't remember. Shoved him in that direction. Okay. Well, you now see the catch on the sideline that he made. First of all, it's a great catch, but he was physical in the route. The one by the goal line that almost got reeled in, right? He's physical on that route. Don't you touch me, you know what I mean? And that's part of the learning process for a young guy. Now you're seeing somebody that has great speed. I'm not going to get into the number. Great speed, right? That now is understanding more and more, right? That physicality is an important part of playing wide receiver and not just pure speed. And that makes, and that's the maturation you're seeing, because that's the kind of guy that you need to have at this time to make plays for. He takes the top off and understands that there are going to be certain plays where you can't take the top off and you've got to be the more physical player. And he did that. And I think that's the part that impressed me above all, was the physicality with which he is now playing. Now, can they get more out of that? Sure. But the physicality with which he's playing, to go with the pure natural talent of speed, which you can't teach.
It gives Drew the ability to now throw to him in more situations than just the one. He now can throw to him deep, and also on the one where he almost made the great catch in the end zone, he can make those throws to Amari now. It opens up the playbook for Amari Evans. It gives him more ability, more options, and going forward, he is going to be a threat in a million different ways.
Well, so now I want to get to today's game. They're talking about they're going to play this afternoon at 4 Eastern, 3 Central, because they couldn't play last night. They're talking about recovery and so forth. All right, over here in the back, I mean, okay, let's use some common sense here. Okay, in the regular season, how many times do you play a team coming off a bye week? Twice, right? Usually a couple of times. There are times you're coming off a bye week. For the most part in the season, the vast majority of the time, I play Saturday, I play the next Saturday. I play Saturday, I play the next Saturday. What's today?
Thursday.
When's the next game?
Thursday?
Yeah. So in other words, Saturday to Saturday. Okay? Georgia hasn't played in almost 3 weeks. Do you realize that? Notre Dame played the first playoff game
on the 20th.
Okay? They haven't played in 13 days. Don't start telling me about the rest and recovery thing. It's like the regular season. You're coming off a bye week. Okay? The other one's coming off multiple bye weeks. Now it's like going Saturday to Saturday. So I don't want to, I realize that people have hours to kill on talk shows. Yeah. I got that part. You know, I mean, it's all part of whatever. So they've got to come up with something. But But does anybody do these shows with common sense?
I know. We do. We like to try here on this talk show. A game that has already happened, which before we really break down this Notre Dame Georgia game, I do want to talk about a little bit.
Sure. I saw only parts of it. Yeah. Because, I mean, no offense, I've been doing a lot of traveling.
A little bit of traveling. So we'll get to the Rose Bowl in a second, but Texas, Arizona State.
I saw the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. But Texas, Arizona State. You mentioned Ashton Genty touching the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Cam Skattebo.
Yeah, it's good.
There was visuals of him throwing up on the sideline, and in the fourth quarter at overtime, he was hurting because he ran the ball 30 times, got targeted 10 times in the game, in pass game, and also threw a touchdown to, by the way, Penn State transfer Malik McLean. So he touched the ball at least 40 times in this game.
Right.
Like he had to do literally everything for them.
He threw a touchdown pass.
He threw a touchdown. He ran for 2.
Game. He's a terrific player.
He made that catch that was pass interference that he ended up catching it anyway and ran the ball down. He played them into this game. And if I may, this was what I think no one thought would happen, that Arizona State would make this close as they did, because Texas is the SEC team and Texas is the big school. Texas played this game to lose, it felt like. Quinn Ewers was not passing the ball well. Matthew Golden pretty much saved him. Without Matthew Golden, I don't know what happens in this game. Quinn Ewers, the numbers look better than they do. 20 for 30, 322 yards, 3 touchdowns, the 1 pick. Outside of the first 3 plays in the first quarter, and then the end of the game, he did nothing. The offense did nothing for Texas. Arizona State fought them the entire way to start the third quarter off with a safety and then go down and get a field goal. It was ridiculous.
Look, Texas is an interesting team. There are a lot of parts about Texas I like. All right, so let's start with the offensive line. Except for one game, all 5 starters have played every game for Texas. Okay. Wiseman, the running back, I like it. You know, do I think he's a great, awesome, and incredible player? No, but I think he's a really good college running back. They do have speed at wide receiver. Their defense is good, but there's still something missing with that team. You saw it in both Georgia games, where there's just something missing with them. And there have been other games they played this year where, like, okay, what are we doing here? I mean, I know they've only lost twice, and it's to the same team. I get that. But it's the other games that you look at, like, they have an inability to put games away. See, that's the thing that gets me, is like, you know, like, they get on, they go along, and suddenly they have that opportunity to throw the left hook. And instead of they kind of hold and like back up and reset and whatever, and they allow the other team to like go on the attack against them. And that's something in watching Texas this year, you know, and part of that's Ewers. Because I think Ewers is a good college quarterback. With all due respect, I do not think he is a great college quarterback. They're talking about he's going to come, like when he came back after last year. Wow, how about that? Excuse me. I mean, if you're in the NFL draft, you're like, I'm not so sure about this. I mean, I'm not sure what his, quote, choices were.
And that's why there's this whole discussion of what he's going to do this season. Because, spoiler, he hasn't shown himself to be great. He had an okay first few games, and then all of a sudden got hurt, and then
he played lousy in both Georgia games.
Yeah.
Right? And to be honest, what I watched yesterday, until the end, overtime, he hit the passes in overtime. So credit where credit's due. But he doesn't throw the ball hard.
Which makes no sense because he's got a really big arm. He just doesn't throw it.
I've watched him play games. Which game does the big arm come up? Arch Manning has a big arm.
And that's why it's this weird thing where he's not.
I mean, okay, he doesn't throw the ball like Matson does. Now, Matson's very accurate, but he doesn't have a strong arm. He doesn't have Drew's arm. If Drew wants to take the ball and drill the ball in, I mean, he flicks his wrist like, I always tell everybody, I see about 4,000 to 5,000 passes a season because of practices. Man, I've seen him put the ball over here, and boom, you want to throw the ball hard? Yeah, he'll throw it hard. I mean, I see Ewers throw some fastballs, but a lot of stuff is like, ding, 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 you know. And I think he's part of it. Now, to his credit, in the clutch, you know, it's fourth down. You have to hit a pass play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you hit the pass play. Now you get the ball to start the second overtime. First play, hit the pass play. Now you need the 2-point conversion. Hit the pass play. The best 3 passes he threw the entire game.
They were back to back to back. So credit to him.
I mean, total credit to him. And they were all big-time throws, accurate throws, and so forth. But I don't know what he's going to do with his future. All I know is that his future includes Ohio State at the Cotton Bowl, so in Texas. And Skattebo is a terrific player. Oh. Levitt played actually against Penn State last year, briefly. It was a mop-up role for Michigan State, but Levitt actually did play against Penn State briefly last year.
And he played well in this game.
He's a gutsy kid.
He ran the ball really well. There was a few times where he scrambled and made men miss. He got, I think, a third down conversion on like 3rd and 15 or 16 or something. He played well. Skattebo was incredible. And by the way, they are missing their number 1 wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, who's a top receiver in college football. And then one of their next best guys, Xavier Guillory, got hurt late in the game.
Yeah.
Like, this was an incredible game. Arizona State's defense pretty much held Texas in check for after the first few plays of the game. So shout out to them. I'm intrigued to see what this Texas defense will do going forward.
And again, this round, look, these 12 teams are the cream. Okay? Okay. Yeah, you can debate about Alabama, South Carolina, some others, getting in. They're part of the cream too, but they're on the outside looking in this particular year. So, I'm not going to discount. I don't discount people. I don't do that. That's just wrong.
And to anyone,
But my point is, right? If you think Texas should have won by 1 million, Arizona State's really good. They feel great about themselves. They were picked 15th out of 16 in the Big 12. Some said 16. I had heard 15. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But they were picked to be either last or next to last in the conference. They won the whole thing. Dillingham did a great job with them. Levitt developed a quarterback. Skattebo's a major league player. Defensively, they did a lot of good things in this game. All right? Got jumped on early. They're down 17 to 3. And came back. Well, they came back because they're confident. Everybody's confident. Boise State was confident going into the game. I mean, what, you haven't lost since the beginning of September? What, are you supposed to be unconfident? Really? You're not supposed to be confident. You haven't lost since the second week of September, or the first week of September. No. Everybody at this stage is good. That's why when we get into the thoroughly, completely ridiculous analysis of didn't belong, every time somebody loses, they didn't belong. Right? Stop being stupid with the audience. Too many people are stupid with the audience. No, I'm not done yet. Right? You sit there. What do you mean you didn't belong? Okay? They won the ACC regular season championship. They didn't lose a game. Okay? When they finally did lose, it was in Charlotte to Clemson, and they rallied in the fourth quarter and tied the game up with 16 seconds left and then made a mistake. Right? Charlotte's 2 hours from Clemson. What do you think the crowd was? I mean, come on. Didn't belong? Arizona State. Oh, well, it's the Big 12. They didn't belong. Didn't belong. They went through and beat everybody to get there. They won the conference championship game. Okay? Right? Indiana didn't belong. They lost one game. Oh, they didn't belong. Well, okay, if you didn't think, okay, if you thought you were more worthy than them, then you should have won more games. I mean, like, it's too simplistic to do quick takes and just take the audience and dumb them down to a level. Quick takes dumb audiences down. Do a show that when it's over, the audience feels it learned at least a little more about something. Okay, quick takes, you learn nothing. Well, LeBron and Curry played together and go. I don't give a damn. When they make the trade, I'll talk about it. Okay? If they don't make the trade, there's no need to talk about it. But it's a great hot take. Hot takes are great. Hot takes have set this industry back years because they've taken the audience and they've made them more, like, desensitized to intelligence. That's why you talk about things like, okay, which show is talking about the conference basketball tournament mentality of buys versus, okay, you fight all your season to get the buy because you don't want to play, but then why do the upsets all occur there? That's called experience and being there and seeing it firsthand. You know how many games I've done where Penn State won the next game over the team that had the bye? I mean, come on. Other games I've seen, okay, that's experience. Sat around, waited a couple days. Other team comes out, feels good, they're energized, they're in the flow of what's going on. Now, then it finally starts to even off. And then when it evens off, like everybody's now playing, okay, now it changes up. Well, this next round, what I just talked about in this round doesn't apply because it's all evened off now. Right? It's all evened off. But, Brady should be off TV. Let's do a... Maybe you should be off radio.
You know what I've enjoyed most, I think, this weekend is watching the... Like, I don't root for teams to lose unless it is for my Saints to make the playoffs or something to happen. Of course, not happening this season.
Just the worst.
But what I do enjoy seeing is there are so many people, as you mentioned, who talked about how the SEC was the best. Alabama deserved to get in. South Carolina deserved to get in. Yeah. What did both teams do? Lose their bowl games. Right. Alabama lost to Michigan. South Carolina lost to, I forget who they lost to.
Illinois.
The Bielema stuff. Right.
Yeah, so, see, like that's been the big hot take about what happened in that game. Like, who cares? Whatever.
But both teams lost, and all of a sudden, all these SEC, the people who said the SEC deserved to have these teams in my heart, I know Arizona State's the one who got to shut them up a little bit because they put Texas to work in this game.
Sure,
and there was a real chance Arizona State was going to win this game at the end. There was a real chance. They had a shot to.
It was fourth down.
It was fourth down.
In overtime. They stopped that play. And it was 4th and 13.
It was 4th and 13 from the 22 or something, or the 25. Yeah. If they stop them, game over. Game's done. Kaput. And then all of a sudden, 3 plays happen, and they have to go back and score a touchdown, and they can't, and it's picked off. Like, it was, they fought to the very end.
Right.
And all these people are now having to say, my bad, which I enjoy because now this won't be a conversation going forward of do certain teams deserve to get in front of their conference? Yeah, because out of 16 teams in the Big 12, someone still had to win it, and Arizona State did, and still had to play as well as they did, win the games ahead of them, and they got in, and they showed why they should be there. Because, my God, Cam Skattebo was incredible. Ashton Genty was incredible for Boise State. Like, first of all, this discourse needs to stop.
Is the SEC a great conference? Of course it is. We all recognize that. Okay? But, I mean, sometimes this is an individual basis right now. It's not a conference basis. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know the Big Ten is going to have half of the field for the for the semifinals. I understand that. But this isn't about the conference thing. This is about the individual basis right now, the individual teams, which ones are able to survive this thing and advance. It's a grind. That's the part that I don't think people understand is the grind of it. So, yeah, when I talked about the Saturday to Saturday thing, my point is Notre Dame's been off 13 days, and Georgia's been off 19. Mm-hmm. Something like that, whatever, like 20 days, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And they've been off. So it's going to go Saturday to Saturday. But there's a grind to this. Okay? Penn State played in the conference championship game. So 1 week after playing in the
Big Ten championship.
One week after playing against Maryland, they had to come back and play a game, which going into the Maryland game, you didn't expect to happen. And went, oh, okay. So now you're playing another game. So everybody had to get ready, go through it, right? And James has been great about how he's handled the practices. Okay, now after that game, you know you're in the playoff. Okay, well now I've got 2 weeks between games. Okay, now you play the game. And now Penn State wins big. So in the fourth quarter, James was able to pull players back. It helped.
We saw Ethan Grunkmeyer play.
Right. We saw a lot of people play. Okay, in the fourth quarter, both sides of the ball. Boise State, last series of the game, the starters aren't out there. Okay, when Mills picked off the ball, last I checked, Tyrese is not a starter. He also should have gone down in the end zone.
Yeah, he got at the two. He got at the two, and then
he should have gone down in the end zone. It is a standard.
Every teammate was like, go down. He got a two. He was like, oh, I'll go down now. It's like, okay. Sure.
All right. So,
but the last game.
Right. But I mean, that's the grind of this.
Yes.
Is, okay, so Penn State plays at home. Okay. Friday night, they have to go to Indianapolis. They play the game on a Saturday night. Right. They come back on a Sunday. Literally got off the plane, went in the building, then found out what their playoff fate was, then got ready for the game. Now, they got a little bit of time off. I mean, you need some healing time. And then you get ready for the game. It's at home. Your crowd is unbelievable, 106,013. It was just great and meant so much. But now you win the game. Okay, now you're going to the Fiesta Bowl. Now you got to get ready for the next game. So now you travel out, and they went out on Sunday morning. No, they went out. I'm sorry. They went out Saturday. Okay, it's a business trip, so they're not out there. This is not like, hey, let's go to SeaWorld. I don't think so. Like bowl games, they have all these things set up. And
it's like a 3-day.
We're going to Disneyland. Okay, great, right? And so you go out there. So you got to travel out there. They did their walkthrough on Sunday. Their Fast Friday. They played the game, stayed overnight, came back yesterday. Okay? Again, this is part of the grind of this. Okay? Now at least you got to, like today, to kind of breathe a little bit. Then you got to really get back to work tomorrow, because tomorrow would be Sunday for a Thursday game. Right? And then you start going through your routine. I know a couple things you want to get to, but
we'll get there in a little bit.
Okay? But when you have, from day one, walked in the building and talked about 1-0. Okay? For 11 seasons. It's all any Penn State football player has heard from their head coach is 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. I hear Ohio State talking about the 4-game redemption tour. Like, and whatever works for you, I'm fine. I don't care, right? But this is the ultimate 1-0 time of the year where, okay, you can get today off. I think they're off today. Right? You get today off. And then you start going through the normal routine to get ready for the next one. But again, it's not just the physical part of the games. Like, for example, Riley Mims is not playing today. He's out for the year because he got hurt in the playoff game. Okay, I mean, you're going to run. Okay, Carson Beck is not playing today. He got hurt in the SEC championship game. He's out for the year. So you're getting to the attrition point in all of this because of the physicality of it. You're playing the best teams, and the best teams are physical, talented, right? And there's the travel part of it. Right. All right. We're all going to get on a plane. We're going to go how many hours, to Phoenix. Boom. Okay. Game's over. Go back to the hotel. Get some sleep. Get on the plane. Fly 4 hours back. Steakhouse. It's less time going back because of west to east, and it's just there's a grind to it, right? That, and when you have a 1-0 mentality preached from day one by the head coach at the ultimate 1-0 time of the year, it allows you to zero in faster to me on what the task is at hand. Now you still don't have a handle yet on which task it is.
Mm-hmm. Find that out.
We'll find that out in a few hours.
And the last game, you mentioned it a little bit, Ohio State, the Rose Bowl. I don't know. I still don't know what Chip Kelly and Ryan Day were thinking going into that Michigan game. It makes even less sense now because I don't know if they just forgot they had Jeremiah Smith as a receiver, and if they forgot they had Emeka Egbuka as a receiver and Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson as running backs, but did they? Because that game makes even less sense now because you got to see what they did in this Rose Bowl, and they just took Oregon apart. And Jeremiah Smith made some incredible plays and flew around the field. Emeka Egbuka made great catches. Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins ran the ball down their throats. It was a demolition derby.
Yeah.
And what were they doing against Michigan? I don't get it.
At this point, Kyle, I mean, it matters in Columbus, but it doesn't really matter in the big picture. I always tell everybody when it comes to the NFL, any playoff, NFL playoffs, whatever, just get into the tournament. Once you get into the tournament, now, okay, let's see what happens. Ohio State got into the tournament. They took Tennessee apart. They took Oregon apart. Now Texas is next for them a week from tomorrow in Arlington. It's all about what you do once you get in. I know that hurts beyond words. I know it's baffling, but maybe they learned something from it and they applied it to the last two games.
What they learned is Jeremiah Smith's a great player again.
Yep.
And he made some plays where I had to sit there and say, he's one of the top receivers we've seen in a while in college football.
He's good. I mean, there have been a lot of top receivers we've seen. I mean, some of the things he did, I was like, he is going to be a talent. He's going to keep playing. And the fact that on the other side of the ball, they have someone who's as good as him, Caleb Downs. Yep.
That's a really good team. And people really got to see them play.
Look, I was at Ohio State for basketball the day Downs committed. So, I mean, I was told by people I trust pretty much what the numbers were. Okay. But he's a great player. He's part safety, part linebacker. He's a punt returner.
Oh, my God.
I mean, it took him a while to get a feel for what was going on, for what Jim Knowles wanted to do. But once he got a feel and understanding, because it's with anybody, they have to make an adjustment. Once he adjusted, he was just, phenomenal.
In this game.
It has been phenomenal. He's played great football. Burke, who got taken apart in the first game, played really well yesterday. Igbenogson played great. The pressure up front. Tyleik Williams, JTT, Sawyer, and I'll tell you the guy that really I thought has played at a high level for Ohio State in every video I watched leading in and what I've seen since is Cody Simon. They gave him the block O at a 0 like Dominic DeLuca. They call it the block O. He earned it.
11 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflected.
Yep.
That is an incredible. He led the team. They, by the way, had 8 sacks on the day.
Right.
Simon had 2, JTT had 2, Jack Sawyer had 2.
But again, this is why you have the 12-team playoff. Ohio State would not have been in the 14 playoff. They would not have. So in the 12-team playoff they're in. Again, the key is get in the tournament. It's all about matchups. There may be something in the matchup with Michigan, that's still not right for them. I don't know. It's all about how you match up with the team you're playing that day. Everything's about matchups. It's not about ignorant hot takes. Okay? It's about matchups. How do you match up? Can you win it? Can you, if you played somebody before like Oregon had played Ohio State, what did you do differently to change a bad matchup for you?
Yeah. And this is why this Texas-Ohio State game is going to be so interesting, because it's an interesting matchup itself. Very funky.
And you can't sit there and put on the idea that, wow, Michigan beat Ohio State, Texas beat Michigan. Can't do that. A can beat B, B can beat C. Okay? So the assumption is that A will beat C. And how many times you see C beats A? Why? Matchups. For whatever reason, a matchup that you can win against one team, turns out the other team has a better matchup someplace else that they can exploit that you couldn't. I mean, it's just,
and now we get to see Texas, Ohio State, two great offenses, two great defenses.
Yep.
I think the player I was most impressed by outside of Cam Skattebo in that Texas-Arizona State game was Colin Simmons, who was rushing mostly off the left.
Yep.
He made some plays where he just on his own ran through two guys and was able to get to Sam Levitt, and he caused whole problems.
Right.
So I know the Ohio State O-line is good.
Yep.
We've discussed them and banged up, but regardless of that, they played well against Oregon. How will they play against Texas, who again has a really good O-line or D-line, has some of the best DBs in the nation. It's like, this is going to be these defenses are great. These offenses are good.
Now today, let's get to today, because we've got the winning moments here. Okay. These are two excellent defenses. I mean, not good, they're excellent defenses. Notre Dame this season has 141 points off of takeaways this season. 141.
It's 10 points a game, straight up.
I mean, how did they win the USC game? 2 90-plus yard interceptions for touchdowns. Xavier Watts, converted from wide receiver to safety, has 6 interceptions himself this year. He has 13 the last 2 years. He's a great player. Now, how will Notre Dame adjust without Riley Mims, who leads the team still in tackles for losses and in sacks? They have to compensate for him not being there. But Notre Dame's defense is really good. Notre Dame's offense is interesting. They don't have a wide receiver that scares you. Okay? The 2 running backs are very good. Okay? But I went back and I looked at the Indiana game, and I thought, I knew Love would be over 100 yards because he had a 98-yard run. And I thought the other kid was going to be in like the 80 or 90-yard range. I was shocked. Love had 107 yards. That includes a 98-yard run. You know what the other kid had? 32. Like, what?
11 carries, 32 yards for Jadarian Price, including one, by the way, was a 20-yard run.
Right.
So,
I mean, you act like I'm not prepared.
I know. But that means he went 10 carries, 12 yards.
I'm saying, though, but like that was the perception of the game. Riley Leonard did not run in that game. I think he's a good passer. I think he's a very good passer. He's not a great passer. So now let's flip it over to Georgia. Here comes the great unknown, Gunnar Stockton. He steps into the game in the SEC championship game, plays well, gives him a spark, a little different style of play. But remember, Texas not one time prepared a single second for him being in the game. Why would they? It's like when Damon Williams came in against Penn State for Washington. They spent the whole weekend ready for Will Rogers. Right? Penn State goes up 28-0, and they pull Rogers. Rogers started the second half, and then they pulled him. Like, okay, look, let's just see what we got here. We're going to lose the game and whatever. So people were like, oh, look how he moves around. Penn State didn't prepare for him. You don't have the time to do it. Hey, let's see what Williams does. I mean, if they played him as part, like they knew he'd play a couple of plays. They knew that. So there was a couple of plays in practice they ran with him. But for the most part, you're getting ready for Rodgers throwing the ball, to Denzel Boston. You're getting ready for Jonah Coleman. You're getting right. That's what you're getting ready for. That's who they are. Well, when you're getting ready for Georgia, you got ready for Carson Beck. Guess what? Stockton watched the entire game in Austin. Stockton watched almost the entire game in Atlanta. Well, now Notre Dame has at least had a chance. Okay, what does he do? What doesn't he do? What's he really good at? Where are the holes in his game? Right? And you have to get that in as much tape as you can find, mostly the Texas tape. They were 15th out of 16 in the SEC in rushing this year. And this is despite the fact that Etienne, the transfer from Florida, I think is a really good running back. He's been banged up. And Frazier, the freshman, is got something to him. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Their wide receivers are good, not great. The tight ends, now this is not Brock Bowers, but Oscar Delp, number 4, and I can't remember 7's name.
Lawson Lucky?
Yeah, Lawson Lucky are both very good. And Beck relied on them. Now, what Stockton does, I don't know. Their offensive line is really good. Defensively, speed. Jalen Walker, number 11, is just a superior talent to me when I watch him play. So that's... And the kicking game is okay for Georgia. The kicking game for Notre Dame is a mystery. Against Indiana, he made his kicks. Before that, he made very few kicks. I mean, it had been one of those, like, they were fortunate. Something tells me somebody in that staff went to the grotto and lit candles because they needed to get something.
But it was like the Arizona State kicking game where they were 4 for 12, I think, on the year, and then he went 2 for 2 in the game or 2 for 3 or something, and it was like, what is happening?
I mean, you could tell Notre Dame when he made the kicks, as much as they were like, yeah, we expect it. You could tell they were relieved because because it's been a mystery. Like when he runs out there, like they don't know.
Yeah.
Last year, he did make kicks. This year, for whatever reason, has been a struggle. Yet against Indiana, when they needed the kicks,
he made them.
He got them. All right, and so that's my thumbnail on both teams.
And this game is meant to be.
I think Woodring's the kicker for Georgia.
Woodring is the kicker. He's 40, I believe, 20 for 22 on kicks this season.
He's been really good.
20 for 22 on field goals. The only 2 he's missed were from 50+.
Right. And it's indoors. So.
And it's indoors. He's 47-47 on PATs. I will not Joe Tessitore curse him like he did last night to Bert Auburn, because that was just, he was like, oh, he's been perfect this season, misses the first one. Oh, he's been perfect under 40, misses it.
Is that who did the game?
Joe Tessitore, both of them.
He did the game.
He was like, perfect, misses, perfect again, missed again. And I was like, Joe, just stop. Just don't bring up the numbers. Okay. You know what's going to happen.
Okay, just so you know.
Yes.
Okay. That's another thing. Let's get straight. All right. The announcer quote jinx is one of the stupidest things on the face of the earth. Right?
I think it's a funny thing.
Right? Okay. Unless they can hear you. In other words, say you're courtside and the guy goes to the free throw and go, hey, he's made 42 in a row. And he can hear you because you're courtside and the place is quieted down. So they can't hear you.
So what you're saying is Ryan Barker doesn't have an earpiece in the entire time just listening to you and Jack talk? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Oh.
No.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve